Let's get real. Menopause can feel like a battleground for many women, with husbands and partners often left in the dark. Many women feel their partners just don't get what they're going through, which leads to conflict and frustration. But not anymore. Today, we're bridging that gap. From mood swings to hormonal changes, our guest, a male doctor specializing in natural hormone balancing, is here to help demystify the menopause journey. Grab your husbands, your partners, and get ready for honest, eye-opening insights that could actually help transform your relationship. Trust us, you won't want to miss this episode of the Menowave Lounge, Hot Flashes and Cool Conversations.
Welcome, everyone, to the Menowave Lounge, Hot Flashes and Cool Conversations. I'm Robin Duke, and this is Marti Daly. So today I want to talk a little bit about the Menopalooza retreat that's coming up in Sedona, Arizona, November 4th through the 7th at the Wild Resort and Spa. We are so excited about this. We are going to have our wonderful care providers there, and this is a great opportunity for you to learn and meet new people. You will be able to design your own menopause roadmap just for you. I hope that you come, sign up, check the link out down below, and play the Marble of the Day game. You can win a $250 spa gift certificate to the Wild Resort and Spa. Today, we have Dr. Glen with us. Welcome, Dr. Glen. We're so glad to have you here.
It's my pleasure, and it's so awesome to be here.
Dr. Glen Depke is a traditional naturopath whose expertise lies in the areas of supporting natural hormone balancing, supporting the gut-brain connection, immune support, and supporting natural inflammatory states. During his career, Glen had the honor of working alongside Dr. Joseph Mercola and is also currently the national educator for Dr. Mercola on a variety of wellness topics, as well as program and product development. He has been specifically assisting women just like us in overcoming symptoms of menopause since 2005. Glen's passion and compassion is to assist us in balancing our hormones naturally, understanding our underlying hormonal triggers, releasing our menopause symptoms, and to help us feel young again. We are super excited to have you. Welcome to the Menowave Lounge.
Oh, thank you. It's such a pleasure to be here. This type of information. Honestly, I can't get to a mountaintop high enough to scream this out. So it is absolutely my pleasure.
I keep talking to women, and I know you have too, and Robin and I and all of our guests just talk about, we're just kind of dumbfounded at really the lack of good information for women out there in menopause. And it's kind of like, I had a client yesterday, we jump on and we're both the same age. And she's like, I didn't know any of this stuff. And I'm so glad I found the menopause support group, and I'm so glad I found us. And so that just really makes what we do so much more powerful and more fun, and just really uplifting to know that, hey, we're here to provide this information and to help women know that you're not alone. We're not alone. There are wonderful voices out there. And men know things about menopause too. It's not just a woman thing. So we're delighted to have you on here to share men's perspective, a doctor's perspective, and to help us communicate with our loved ones and our partners who maybe will never have that experience of going through menopause.
Yeah, and I think that's such a big key too, because I've been in practice since 2001, and I've been working with women specifically with menopause since 2005. And so really like 19 and a half years at this point. And one of the big challenges that I see is that a lot of times, more often than not, men don't understand what women are going through. And then there's a judgment on women as to they're just being X, Y, and Z, right? Without a recognition that there's actually physical, functional reasons why a woman is dealing what she's dealing with and how it's showing up in her life. And that's something that, if every man really understood that, there would be a much deeper level of not only understanding, but compassion. And they would probably be more partners in the woman actually overcoming and balancing herself rather than judging and ridiculing and, like being angry, all the time. So that's such a key point.
Since we are talking about men there, I do want to honor a very special man in my life, is my husband. Today is our 10th wedding anniversary. and he has just been my rock, and he does his best to support me through this time. And he's very interested. He listens to the podcast as I'm editing it, and he has questions, and I was excited to share this with him. But I just want to give a shout out to the men in our lives who are supportive and who want to know more and love us enough to want to do better. And so because that I'll forgive, when we had a cool night a couple of weeks ago where it got to be below 65 in the house, and he's walking around in his t-shirt and shorts and decides it's time to crank up the furnace. And he had to deal with the wrath of Marty, but I'll let that slide.
Well, congratulations, Marty. It's wonderful that you guys are celebrating your anniversary today. Speaking of a Minnow moment, my Minnow moment happened today when I was on hold waiting to speak to this representative, and it'd been 20 minutes, right? And so I'm just thinking, I got to get into the shower. And I just knew if I got into that shower, boy, that person would get right on the phone. And sure enough, that's what happened. I had shampoo in my hair. And then all of a sudden I hear on the phone, the lady come back and she says, "Hello, good morning." And I'm like, oh no. So I had to hurry up, shampoo. I'm dripping wet. It's like, just a minute. And thank God it was just a phone call. I was able to get out of there. But I just thought, oh my God, how many times has that happened to us? Dr. Glenn, do men have many moments?
I'll actually do it from a different perspective. I just recently had a session. I have, in my practice, I work with women in a lot of different ways, and I take 10 VIP clients every year. And I just recently had a session with one of my VIP clients, and this is somebody who not only had all of the common menopause symptoms, but like really, literally, even her deeper issue is that her sleep was terrible. Her gut was so bad, she would be like in a ball in pain. And her brain just didn't work, as she would say. She says, the way most people can think and remember, that doesn't happen. I'm getting to like the end of the year of working with her, and we had a session again recently. And I asked her, "How are you doing?" She says, "Well, in amazement, I don't ever have any gut pain. Most of my symptoms are gone or virtually gone." And she says, "I can actually think again. Like my brain works." And, if that isn't a mental moment, I don't know what is. Just the ability to celebrate that with women who have been struggling for years, and then to actually show up in a way that they didn't even think was possible. So that's my moment.
That's amazing. Dr. Glenn, can you share a little bit with us how you got started on this journey of helping women in menopause?
Let me give you the short version of the long version. So all of this started with me becoming a naturopath because of my own issues. When I was 17, I had my first grand mal seizure. And I was told that, this would, well, and actually the first one wasn't even recognized. And then I had another about 2 years later at 19, but that one was recognized. Somebody witnessed it. And I went to the doctor. I had every test known to conventional medicine. They said that there's no reason for me to have a seizure. That was probably just a very unusual one-time incident, will probably never happen again. And then literally just months later, I had another. And this time I woke up in the back of an ambulance. I ended up in the hospital, did all the exact same tests again. Same thing. There's no reason why you would have had a seizure, but now you've had two that have been recognized in a close time frame. So they diagnosed me as epileptic and gave me anticonvulsants, and I still had seizures on anticonvulsants. And that just kind of, that was really one of the best things that could have ever happened to me, because it started a new chapter in my life. It started with me beginning to really look at health, look at like what I'm doing to myself. And to make that long story short, over years, I had changed really everything that I do from a health perspective. I overcame this seizure disorder. I don't take medications for seizures. I don't have seizures, and I'm never worried about having a seizure again the rest of my life, because I took care of the triggers of what was causing it. Right. So that actually then motivated me, because years ago I used to own restaurants. Yeah. But that motivated me to really, do what I felt like was my calling, was to help people. Yeah. So that's when I went back to school to become a naturopath. I got a Bachelor of Science in natural health. And I eventually got my doctorate in traditional naturopathy. And I started helping people. And and working with menopause wasn't an intent initially. Yeah, it kind of organically grew, because what happened in my practice is most of my clients were women between the ages of 45 and 55. And they weren't normally coming in for like menopause symptoms. They were coming in for other symptoms, like maybe they had, blood sugar issues or weight gain, or, some inflammatory conditions or some other diagnoses. But this is what was so interesting, is as I was helping women overcome their other challenges and their sometimes what they were diagnosed with or what they were struggling with, what I started to notice is women were then sharing that just they recognize that, wow, my menopause symptoms are gone, or they're going away, or they're changing significantly. And I really, by chance, I stumbled upon what I think is kind of the secret, to menopause. And then from that point on, it really became my passion, because once I started to really understand menopause in a way that probably most people are not teaching in this way, then it became very important to me, and I became very passionate about really helping women understand the truth about menopause, to help them understand that no, they're not supposed to suffer. It's, whether you believe in God, the universe, or whatever, like, you weren't created to suffer at 50 years old, right? And the female body was just created to, perfectly transition through menopause. Yet there's underlying reasons why that doesn't happen for most women. So yeah, it was really more of an organic growth than it was a specific like focus early on. I'm only going to work with women with menopause, and it's such a joy working with women with menopause as well, because I've recognized through my years that, number one, they're so appreciative, and women are really good at, like, if you lay out a plan for them, women are really good at like sticking to something. And so it makes it very pleasurable for me. And it's almost like every day, like I don't work a day in my life. I just get to kind of share my knowledge with people who want that knowledge and watch them improve. And who doesn't want to do that?
What are some of the truths that you found that our audience would be interested to hear that they may not have heard before?
Well, I mean, here's the biggest truth that most people don't know, and most women don't know. And it got, even statistically, like there's 2 million women enter menopause every year in the US. Now, that doesn't even include the women who are already in menopause, right? And about 75 to 85% of those women are suffering with significant symptoms. The symptoms that all of you know about, the weight gain, the sleeplessness, the night sweats, the brain fog, just the list goes on. And the truth, though, is that those are not symptoms of menopause. There's only two true symptoms of menopause. And after working with women for all these years, most women are pretty excited about the two true symptoms, because the only two true symptoms of menopause are that you no longer have a monthly cycle and you can't conceive. And most women at about 50 would celebrate that. And all these other symptoms that women are dealing with that I mentioned, the weight gain, the sleeplessness, the hot flashes, the mood swings, the fatigue, all of that, those are symptoms of other underlying hormone conditions that also have triggers that could all be understood. But women have basically been told, most of your lives, you've been told that these are the things you should expect. And to me, this is the thing that I can't say loud enough, or get to a place where I can say it to enough people, is no, you should expect to literally go through a hormonal transition to where you no longer have a monthly cycle, you can't conceive, and it's literally like hitting a speed bump in the road. It's like boom, boom, and then you just go on. And that's how it should be for women.
Well, that's really interesting that you said. I just kind of want to like slow this down for a second, because you said that really the two true symptoms are no cycle and not being able to produce babies, but everything else is hormone driven or hormone symptoms. And so by understanding that then and learning how to balance the hormones, then that can alleviate a lot of the problems that we go through as that we call menopause. Is that what I'm hearing you say?
Yeah, that's a part of it. And it is important to really comprehensively know what's going on with your hormonal system, which is a whole nother issue, because most of the time when you go to the doctor and they run a blood test, they might be looking at, generally progesterone, estrogen, and maybe testosterone is usually what's looked at. And it's usually just the estrogen and progesterone. And and they're looking at blood. Well, blood only shows you what's in the blood in that moment, right?
Right.
It doesn't show you anything that's potentially built up in the body. So and it's not really comprehensive enough. Like literally, when I'm looking at hormones, number one, I'm not looking at blood because it really doesn't give you the answer, like the holistic answer of hormones in your body. I'm always looking at a 24-hour urine collection, and I'm literally looking at 32 different hormones, how your kidneys are affecting this, how two different parts of your liver are affecting, like estrogen metabolism, as an example, how the chronic inflammation is driving this and chronic disease states are driving it. So you want to be able to look at everything. And here's the other thing that is the key understanding is that what is wrong hormonally is not a hormone problem. This is like a little golden nugget. The problem is whatever is triggering the hormone response. And so really overcoming the symptoms that you're dealing with today, it's not just understanding what's going on hormonally and working on balancing that. You've got to understand what are the triggers. Is it chronic inflammation? Is it infections in the gut? Is it food sensitivity that you're unaware of? Is it toxicity that you're unaware of? Is it all the mental emotional stress that is like, pushing you off the rail? Like there's just so many different levels to look at and understand. So yes, it's the combination of that. It's yes, you do want to look at the hormones, you want to know where you're at, you want to work on balancing that, and you really absolutely need to understand what's triggering the hormone response, because it's almost never a hormone problem.
Can you share a little bit more about triggers and how you find them and how they're connected, and maybe give us an example, say a story?
Yes, absolutely. So part of what I do, whether I'm working with groups, doing live or Zoom events, or working with women one-on-one in my practice, the first thing that I'm always doing is I'm either myself, like if I have a VIP client, I'm doing an assessment where I'm actually, you can look at the body. Like years ago, I was trained in some of the aspects of traditional Chinese medicine as well as iridology to really understand, because the body can tell you what's going on. Yeah, and so from there, that gives me a direction at where to look for testing, right? And I'll just say the most common issues that I see literally all the time. And I'm even thinking of somebody that I'm going to be chatting with later today, who came to me because of all these different, menopausal symptoms, so to say, that she's dealing with. Well, we had gotten her hormone results back, and her hormones were literally all over the place. And it's not just about estrogen and progesterone. And it's actually, believe it or not, it's least about that. There's many more hormones that are far earlier in the game than estrogens and progesterone. And I started getting a testing back, and I recommended testing based on body signs. So her body signs told me that there were some significant issues in her gut. And through an assessment that she filled out, I also understood that it was likely that she had SIBO, which is small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. So I recommended that we test for gluten cross-reactive food sensitivity. I recommended a 3-day comprehensive stool collection, and I recommended a SIBO test. And we get these results back. And now she didn't have a lot of sensitivities, but it was shown that she was sensitive to wheat and eggs. And she had already given up eating wheat, but she ate eggs at least 5 days a week. So every time she would eat eggs, it's driving a significant inflammatory response, but she was asymptomatic. So it's not like she ate eggs and it felt terrible afterwards. And we get the stool results back, and the woman has like 5 detrimental bacteria in her gastrointestinal system that she was unaware of. And the reason why I'm seeing her today is we're going over her SIBO results, and she has both a methane and a and a hydrogen dominant SIBO as well. Yeah. So literally what's going on with our hormonal system is just a reaction to all these other things going on in her body, because when she would eat like wheat or eggs, that's driving inflammation. The infections are driving inflammation. SIBO is driving inflammation. And these are all irritating to the hormonal system, and the hormonal system has to respond appropriately. And that appropriate response has led her, and because there's so much going on, which is very common for women who have menopause symptoms who are really suffering, is all these other underlying factors are going on, and you don't stand a chance. Yeah, when you're not looking at all of what's causing it.
Well, and that was my question that it came to mind, is a lot of these conditions that these women are experiencing have been probably going on for a very long time. What is it about this time in our life that they think that, oh, well, it's because of menopause, when really the issues with the gut bacteria and the inflammation and the food sensitivities may have been developing a long time? Is it because of the hormonal changes with the estrogen and progesterone? Or is it because we've been told that maybe we haven't really noticed we've been feeling this way, but because we notice one little thing, it's like because of menopause, and then we just lump all of our stuff into that bucket?
Marti, you couldn't have asked me a better question. And I wouldn't have even thought of really putting it in that way. So here's the thing. The female body is designed to simply transition from childbearing years into perimenopause, into menopause, and postmenopausal with, at most, as I said, that speed bump in the road, right? But here's the thing, though, is this is dependent on you having a healthy, I'll just say adrenals to make it a little bit simpler, but it's not just adrenals. It's really how your brain, your hypothalamus, your pituitary, and your adrenals are working synergistically together. When that system is working well and you have vitality in that system, because the simple fact is that when you're going from childbearing years into perimenopause, you're now lowering the production, like naturally, your ovaries are not doing what they did when in childbearing years. You're no longer producing the amount of estrogens and progesterone in the ovaries. Now there comes a higher need for the body to produce this because of that HPA axis, the hypothalamus, pituitary, and adrenal. And the big problem, though, is that by the time women have entered menopause, so let's just say, we'll just use the 50 years old as an example. So by the time a woman actually is 50, and what's happened is now she's already been living with these infections in the gut. The infections have probably driven the inflammatory response. All of this is really blowing out and reducing vitality in that system. So now when a woman enters menopause, the vitality is it's not gone, but it's significantly diminished to the point where you can't transition optimally. So now you can't produce what you should be producing in the adrenals or in this HPA axis, and you're left high and dry. And like one of the most common symptoms I see all the time is weight gain. And it's almost expected now that once you get into menopause, you should gain 20, 25, maybe 30 pounds or more for some women. And here's the simple reason why, is because if your body has been used to producing estrogen in your ovaries for all these years and decades, literally, and now the ovaries are no longer doing that, and the adrenals can't because they lack vitality, because they've been blown out for these health reasons, and then other reasons that we'll probably talk about a little bit later about how a woman's life is different than a man's, is then what happens is the vitality isn't there. So now the estrogens don't get produced. And one of the best places to produce estrogen, if you can't produce it naturally in your hormonal system, is from fat cells, adipose tissue, which is fat. So what happens is women gain fat to be able to maintain somewhat of a estrogen balance. And even just the fat itself doesn't maintain the full balance. So not only are you gaining weight to that adipose tissue, which is fat, to help with estrogen production, it's still not giving you an optimal production. So therefore, not only did you gain 20 plus pounds, you're still not feeling optimal because you can't produce everything you need. You still have the dependency on those adrenals and that HPA axis to do this. And for most women, by the time you reach menopausal years, and I'll even say that's really the 75 to 85% statistic. There's that 15 to 25% who go through exactly what I'm describing, but they're not the ones out there talking about it. They're just like sending out prayers of gratitude of, thankfully I'm not one of those women who's suffering like that.
Well, that's really interesting. And so the body is producing fat in order to get enough estrogen because your adrenals and your ovaries are not producing the estrogen. So are there natural ways of being able to put that estrogen back in? Or is this like an example of, getting a BHRT to balance that out?
Yes, absolutely. And this is another place where I'm different too. I've been working specifically with women for 19 and a half years with menopause. And in 19 and a half years, I've only recommended estrogen 5 times and progesterone like 7 or 8, only in the most extreme cases. And because the whole thing, and that's kind of the trap for women too, is that, if let's just say hypothetically, a woman is tested and her estrogen is low. So, and usually they'll recommend estrogen and also progesterone together, and then they feel better, right? Because it was low, except though that's still not fixing the problem. It's fixing the symptom. Yeah. So when the problem is really twofold, it's kind of number one is how the brain, the hypothalamus, pituitary, and adrenals aren't working properly. But then even before that, it's the triggers of why that isn't working properly, right? So the trap is that for some women, taking estrogen and progesterone is symptom relief. So they feel better, except they're still not fixing the problem. So there's still triggers. There's still this hormone imbalance that's affecting the body holistically. And other problems come up that are not necessarily tied into menopause, but it could be the severe gut issues. It could be the severe pain of inflammatory conditions. It could be the severe issues with the brain and basically neurological degenerative kind of issues. When we think of like hormone production, it's hormones are really all about conversions. It's your body just doesn't randomly only produce X, Y, and Z. There's a lot of conversions from a hormone perspective, and estrogens are like at the end of the line as far as conversions are concerned. So rather than work at the end of the line on a symptom care, I like to work at the core or the foundation of where it's going wrong, which is the triggers and the whole aspect of how do we kind of like help the body naturally re-engage this HPA axis. And so it's just it's a whole different approach, yet as I've seen for almost 2 decades, it's an approach that works. There's so many times where I've even heard women say that, well, I've already been doing all those things, but sometimes it's the things that you don't even think about, like this, as I brought up the example, this one woman, she eats eggs at least 5 times a week, and she doesn't know she has a significant sensitivity to it, which is driving an inflammatory response, which is affecting her hormonal system. Or she would have never known she had SIBO, which is driving another significant challenge. And these are the problems that women kind of get stuck in. And while I don't use, I typically don't use estrogens and progesterone. Sometimes women will ask, well, what you do, I'm already using estrogen and progesterone. Do I need to stop? It's like, no, you could still keep using a symptom care while we work on getting to the bottom of what's going on. So hopefully there becomes a time where you don't even need the symptom care. That's what I want every woman to be back into a natural hormone balance without taking anything is what I'm always looking for, like longer term.
This is fascinating because it seems like then when we start noticing these symptoms, whatever they are, that's a message from our body of like, oh no, we have hit that this house of cards is falling now. And so the HRT helps relieve the feeling of the symptoms, but it's almost like slapping a Band-Aid on it. That is really needs to be our cue to go, okay, let's figure out what's under the surface here. I know my own husband, it's like, okay, if he can't fix the problem, then it just gets him flustered and then we like that. But I think if we can go back and go, okay, well, this is a sign, these hot flashes, my mood swings, the tiredness, the brain fog, honey, I think there's something really going on here. Will you support me in going down that path of investigating of what that is? I know that my husband would be like, well, yeah, let's figure that out. What tests do we need? Who do we need to go to? Because then he can help me solve this problem on this path versus just like, well, I guess I need to go on HRT and they don't understand. And it helps some, but there's a lot of things that are just left unsaid.
Yeah, 100%. And it's like, and an example I use all the time with clients too is that like even when I'm looking at hormone tests, like testing companies, whether you do conventional testing or testing with a holistic practitioner, testing companies can't say you're high or low in something until you're in a dangerous zone, right? And the tests that I utilize, they don't only look at reference ranges. They're not just saying, oh, it's okay or it's terrible. There's different color codings, like it'll have a green, a yellow, a blend of yellow and green, and then red. Well, they don't mark it as a problem until you're in the red. But it's already a problem if it's in the yellow, it's cautionary high or low. If it's in a blend of green and yellow, it's already non-functional. Like there's not optimal function there. And here's a great analogy for that. It'd be like, Robin, let's say I borrow your car. And I use your car for something and I bring it back and I say, thank you so much, Robin, for letting me use your car. That was really important. I needed to get that done. Oh, and I did notice that it seems like your brakes are beginning to go out. But why don't you wait until you run into a brick wall before you have your brakes looked at? Now, who's going to say that? That's a ridiculous comment to make, yet that's what's happening with women with menopause all the time. Is that you're waiting until you hit the brick wall and then you have the car looked at from the male perspective. For all my men watching this, it'd be like just changing the pads, but the rotors are bad. And like, there's still something deeper that's not just throwing a new pad on it to make it work. Now that might make the brakes work better, but overall long term, the brakes still aren't going to work optimally because it's the rotors need to be changed. I'd love to think that men can think about this differently because there's so many times, and heck, I remember way back when I wasn't a naturopath and I was in the restaurant business. And I remember the gentleman used to come in every day. It was my actual postman. And at one point he comes in, he's got this like terrible look on his face and says, what's going on? He says, I'm getting divorced. I said, getting divorced? I've known this gentleman for years and I've met his wife in the restaurant and they always seem like such a happy couple. And he just explained to me, he says, when she reached menopause and man, my life was miserable and they ended up getting divorced. But the whole thing though is it wasn't divorce because there was a real problem with them. It was divorce because this woman was suffering with things that she didn't understand. He didn't understand. She couldn't fix. And then they ended up, in the worst place the last place they wanted to be. Yeah. And that's so so disconcerting and really horrific, because there's a lot of people, a lot of couples that they're really great couples, and it's one of the things that I always explain too is like, when a woman is having some kind of an emotional reaction and she's in menopause, it doesn't mean she's a X, Y, or a Z. It just means that things are working differently than they did before, and when this whole system blows out, like I'm talking about with that HPA axis, like one of the things that happens is you lose your coping mechanism. So the stress that might have been fine 5 years ago or 10 years ago that would just roll off your sleeve, like even that little bit of that same amount of stress now pushes you over the edge. And it's just misunderstood. And so often it's misunderstood by men, and then men take it on as like they're being attacked. And they're really, honestly, guys, you're not being attacked. It's just a mechanism that's different. And if you had the same problems going on, you would experience the same reactions as well.
Right.
And you say that I had that exact thing happen last night. It was a very long day, a lot of stuff going on. It was just a very busy day for me. And hey, my whole life busy, but I hit a point last night where I literally everything just blew out. I had a moment where I couldn't figure out how to use my computer. There was it was like a little computer thing. It should have taken me 5 minutes to figure out. And I sat there and cried because I
Right.
couldn't figure it out. So
Well,
I could
and
see that because 5 years ago I would have been like, I'll walk away and I can come back. But that moment, my coping mechanism was just gone, like you said.
absolutely. And a common challenge too is that like men like to fix things, right?
Yep.
So if you're having a problem and let's say you're just somebody's having an emotional meltdown, it's usually not the problem isn't usually what the problem is. It's just that just the hormones are working differently, the brain is working differently, and the meltdown is like just waiting to happen, right? And in essence, then a man wants to come in and fix it. But it's not that the woman is looking for it to be fixed. It's just that it's the hormonal response and the neurological response that's going on that is triggering all this. And then a man tries to help fix it, and then he's kind of attacked in the midst of trying to fix, and then he gets triggered and defensive and angry, and then it's just like all what breaks loose from that standpoint, and it can all be avoided. Like I've had clients who, they'll share these stories that go on with their husbands. I'll say that, well, you know, and my first thing to always say is, well, working together, that won't be happening for much longer. And in the meantime, while we're still working on you balancing all these areas and overcoming your triggers and these different things, I says, what I want you to have a discussion with your husband and just let him know that, hey, when I get like that, I'm going to remove myself and please don't follow me. Let me just be. I don't need to be fixed. I literally don't want your help at that moment. And just having a communication, which then creates an understanding between the couple and a safety within the couple as well. But these are just like little things that are never really brought up. And because there's answers for all of it.
That's really a very good point about communication between men and women, especially when women are going through their triggering menopause moments, and men feel very helpless, like they can't fix it. And so I love the concept of having these conversations with you and your partner in order to say, listen, I love you. It's not you, but this is how you can help me when I'm in the middle of going through this. And if I say I just need some time, then please don't take it personally. Just give me some space, go make me a cup of tea, and this will pass, and then we can talk about it. But if you don't have those conversations, ahead of time, then when you're in the heat of it, then that's when things start to blow up, because you haven't had those conversations. And the man doesn't understand that this is what the woman's going through, and he feels rejected, he feels hurt, like he can't fix it. And the woman is just more frustrated than anything else because she's going through her own triggers. So that's an awesome analogy, and I just really feel like our partners, our men guys, they need to hear this. They're looking for an answer. They love their wives. They want to know what's going on with them. And they may not understand everything that we were just talking about. But if we give them something to do while we're going through our menopause issues, then they feel like they're doing something, that they're being supportive. And that's the most important thing, is they want to understand and they want to feel like they're able to support us as we're going through our menopause.
Speaking of, sorry, go for it.
No,
Sorry.
no, go ahead, buddy.
I was going to say, on top of that, as we're supporting one another, I think it's important to mention that men are going through hormonal changes as well. Am I correct? Do you mind sharing a little bit about that? What might be going on?
No, it's true, because men go through hormonal shifts as well. Women don't have testes to produce testosterone, and men don't have ovaries to produce estrogen. So that means that men are dependent on adrenals for estrogen, and women are dependent on adrenals for testosterone, as an example, right? But here's the thing, believe it or not, men can still have hot flashes. Men can still get breast cancer. Men can still have symptoms of going through what's called andropause, or like the joke name of it is menopause, right? But here's the thing though, is that yes, men can have some things going on as well that is triggering them, and they can have their own triggers and health issues going on. They might have a less of a coping mechanism as well. It's just that, the thing though is that far more women go through menopause symptoms than men go through andropause symptoms. And Now, does that mean that men aren't exposed to the same triggers? Well, that's not true. Men can have infections in their gut. Men can be toxic. Men can have food sensitivity. Yeah, but there's one place that I feel there's a big difference between men and women. And I might be one of the few men who is going to openly admit this, is that, man, our lives are way easier than yours. It's so much easier being a man than it is being a woman. And sorry, guys, if you're like, no, that's not true. No, it's true. I know this by working with women for so long. What I recognize is that a typical woman is taking care of her children. She's taking care of her husband. She's taking care of the house. Very often involved in the church and community as well. And on top of that, you work a full-time job. Right. So whereas men, give credit to men, men go out and they often work their butt off to help support the family, and they're great providers or great protectors. Yet women who are the nurturers, who are the caretakers, and also working a full-time job, that means that for women, 3 decades before you reach menopause, you've been overworked, overwhelmed, and overstressed. So by the time you reach menopause, as compared to men reaching andropause, your hormonal system is blown out. Like there's not much left to your brain and your HPA axis. So you can't make that easy transition. Whereas more often than not, men are making that easier transition of just that little speed bump there. And that's just a simple fact of our society.
Wow, that is so true. I mean, women, when you just said that, women are overworked, overstressed, their bodies are worn out, their adrenaline glands are just like worn out. And, so no wonder, we're having these like triggers, and the estrogen, we hit that speed bump and it's like hitting a wall. And then everything is amplified, and it's really hard to figure out how to source it out, how to look at it, how your whole menopause picture as to, okay, is it estrogen? Is it progesterone? Is it, our triggers? Is it our guts? And it's probably like a big combination of everything. So these poor guys, they're overwhelmed because their wife, their partner doesn't understand everything that's going on, and they're working with the reaction. They're reacting to it instead of being proactive and finding solutions. And so maybe this is just a part of the smaller picture of the whole story, is being able to, number one, communicate that. Number one, men being able to realize what their wives are going through. And then number two, being able to to be able to look at their symptoms in a way that are, okay, I understand this part, I understand this part, let's try and work on a little bit of this or that, instead of like seeing trying to eat the elephant one bite eating the elephant, the whole elephant all at one time, but eating it one bite at a time. It's such a roller coaster of experiences, and this is just a part of it that we can help men and women to understand what's going on with their body by educating them.
100%. And it's just like an easy way for men typically to understand. Like if you're going to go work on your car, so let's say there's a problem with your car and you find something that seems like it's the cause and you fix that, yet you're still having the same problem with your car. Well, that doesn't mean you're like, oh, well, I got to rid of this car and get a new car. No, it means you look a little bit deeper. What else is broken underneath this that I need to fix? Okay. All right. I fixed that other thing. It's a little bit better, but it's not how it should be yet. So I'm going to look a little bit deeper. What's another thing that's causing it? And that's how, guys, that's how you should look at women going through menopause, is that it's not that you need to throw out the car and get a new car. It's that you have to see what's the underlying thing that's broken, that's causing the problem. And if you work on fixing that and the problem is still there, that there's more to look at. Like you just have to look deeper. That's, you don't just, most men, you're not going to, if you're trying to fix something, you don't do one thing. Oh, it didn't work. Forget it. I'm just going to buy a new one. Right. No, men are, most men, they want to just keep looking at, they want to fix the problem. So think of what your wife or your significant other is going through as that same thing. It's more of help, and really being compassionate with them, because I think a lot of times men make it about them, right? It's like how they're being attacked or by how they can't do anything right. Like that's a common thing that I see with men when their spouse or significant other is going through, a lot of symptoms tied into menopause and all these triggers, is they feel like they can't do anything right. Well, because honestly, on a level you can't, because you're not the problem, but you're taking it on as like you're the problem and you're not. But you can make yourself the problem by getting defensive and attacking back, rather than being, like with the information you're getting today, guys, you should be compassionate. You can actually have a level of compassion and understanding and really be supportive in your wife or your significant other, really getting to the bottom of this so she can actually be happy and healthy and balanced and like live the life that she should be living rather than the life that's been really put upon her by literally 30 years of, like I said, overwhelmed, overworked, and overstressed, and throw on top of that the triggers. No wonder why this is the problem for 75 to 85% of women.
Mm.
And I can see, as I'm hearing you talk, just relating in my own life, is when we are overwhelmed, overstressed, overworked, we just don't want to deal with one more thing. And I know that helps for me to be reminded of, okay, are you taking care of yourself? Have you looked at this? Have you considered this? Where are some good places for us to start investigating?
Well, not to oversimplify, but it really is a lot simpler than it may seem. It's a pretty simple 3-step process. Number one, you have to take care of the simple lifestyle things. That has to be addressed appropriately. I have a book, it's called Fat, Fatigued, and Frustrated: How to Turn Back the Clock and Feel Young Again. And that book is simply an action step guide to address all of your fundamentals. Right. And that book was so important for me to write. And I was fortunate enough that I even brought it to the bestseller status on Amazon. I didn't put the book together to get rich selling a book, right? I put the book together because that's so important for every one of my clients that I work with. Everybody gets a copy of that book at the beginning, because if you can't do the simple things, you can't expect the bigger things to find balance there, right? Think of it this way. This is a good analogy for the men listening too. If you're building a house, you don't start by, oh, well, let's put together the studs for the walls and put those up. You don't start building a house out with that way. You build a foundation first, then you build the floor, then you build the walls, then you build the ceiling, then you build the roof, right? So the foundation of this is always your fundamentals. And then the floor, the next step is then really understanding comprehensively what's going on hormonally speaking. And literally, I can look at 10 different hormone results in one day and see 10 complete different expressions of what's going on hormonally. Like sometimes I see women with low estrogen. Sometimes I see women who they're improperly converting testosterone into estrogen. So now their testosterone is depleted and now they have an estrogen dominance, which is a risk factor for breast cancer. I can see like significant inflammatory triggers. I can see that maybe the part of the phase 1 liver detoxification pathway isn't allowing proper metabolism of estrogens. Like there's all these different combination of things that could be like imbalance in your hormones. So that's kind of the floor. You want to look at that. You want to know it comprehensively. You want to be able to see not only what's in your blood, but what's in the body. And then you can start making recommendations. You set up some balance there, right? But then the walls that we're talking about, then you have to look at, well, what are the different triggers? Is this food sensitivity? Is it gut infections? Is it other infections in the body? Is it toxicity? Is it chronic inflammation? The list goes on of what that can really be. And generally from there, you've got your answers. Generally from there, you're beginning to feel better. You're starting to notice that symptoms are dissipating. It's so funny. If I'm out dinner, let's say, and I have a girlfriend, but she doesn't live with me. So often I'll just go out to eat on my own, and I'll sit at a bar and somebody will sit next to me and we'll just have a little small talk. And sometimes a woman will ask, well, what do you do? Now, the normal person would say, well, I'm a traditional naturopath and I work with menopausal women. But my response is, well, I help women feel young again. And it usually drives the conversation. Well, how do you do that? But that's in essence what I do. And before I help women feel young again, the first thing I do before that is I provide hope to those that are hopeless. So many women are so frustrated. They're frustrated beyond the point where frustration is no longer the issue. Now they're hopeless. And I hear it all the time. And I've seen it in different things online and social media where women almost get defensive when you start to say that there's something you could do, because they've been taught, like women, you've been taught that you should expect this. Well, what about the other 15, 25% that don't have that? So I like to first just provide hope with an understanding that this can actually change, and then you can take the right steps and you can start to see change. And then when women start to feel better, now the hope is not just a thought, it's a feeling, right? And it's something that you're experiencing. And then it's just a matter of time before you uncover all the triggers, and again, you turn back the clock, you feel young again. I talk about this all the time because there's usually like the right hand bottom part of your closet are all the jeans that you haven't worn in 5 or 10 years. That at some point you hope that you can get into again. I'm always like, well, let's reach a point where you can go into that bottom right hand part of your closet and reach into those skinny jeans and actually slip them on and enjoy wearing them. And weight is just a part of it. But ultimately, I just really want to see women feel good about themselves, feel good within their body, and to really just escape from their symptoms. And that's what I believe. Not only does every woman want, I believe that every woman deserves that. And that's why I'm so passionate about this.
Wow, that is just so amazing. I think you just really hit the nail on the head as far as really identifying what we as women feel. And so many times we do have this hopelessness. And if we can just give them something to say, you can be healthy, you can feel younger again. There are ways that you can come back from this. So, wow, thank you for just really laying that out.
Glen, do you work with women all around the country?
I do. I used to even work internationally. It's just become a bigger issue with like shipping and everything nowadays. So I really focus on the US. But yes, I have clients in, I think, probably every state, and even Alaska, as a matter of fact, because there just aren't a lot of people who understand it in the way that I do. It's not that there's nobody, but the bulk of not just conventional, but also holistic are still focused on estrogen and progesterone. And some are using estrogen and progesterone and still looking at like triggers and things like that. But I want to work earlier with the hormonal system. I want to work more on a foundational level with what's going on hormonally. Yeah, because here's the thing. When women think of menopause, they usually just think of really progesterone and estrogen and sometimes testosterone, right? And I'll go off on a little tangent. Guys, if your significant other is no longer interested in sex, it's probably not because of you. I just looked at a test yesterday where a woman had her testosterone levels were so low, it wasn't even measurable. Now, it's not that she has no testosterone, but it's so low, it's not even measurable. Well, when a woman has low testosterone, that means low motivation, more weight gain around the midsection, harder to maintain and build muscle mass, and significantly less desire and intimacy in sex, right? So there's like functional reasons why this is going on. It doesn't mean that, hey, she doesn't like you anymore or she's not interested in you. But when we look at this overall, though, like the system that I'm talking about, where how your brain, your hypothalamus, your pituitary, and your adrenals work together, that is a key for overcoming menopause symptoms. Yet it's not just that. See, that system ties directly into the function of your pancreas, your ovaries, for women in childbearing years, your thyroid function, your ability to regulate body weight and fat, your metabolism of fats and protein, all detoxification pathways in your body, pro and anti-inflammatory states, immune regulation, blood sugar stability, cellular energetics, muscular skeletal health, so your bone and connective tissue turnover, as well as your muscular integrity, your quality of sleep and mood, your ability to memorize and learn, and your overall neuroconnectivity are all dependent on this system working right. So it's not just menopause symptoms. So I want you to understand that this is why, to me, you've got to fix the system. And more power to you. If you're using estrogen and progesterone and it's safe for you and you're feeling better, that's fantastic. You have some symptom relief. Yet, if the system doesn't get fixed, all those other things are potentially already problems or will become problems in the future. And the whole thing, there's answers for all of it, right? You just have to look. And I don't do everything either. This is another key point. This is why I love Menowave is, the Menowave practitioners, I don't know exactly. I think there's like 40 to 50 practitioners in the group. And I don't do everything. Like, sometimes you need deeper coaching with what's going on mentally, emotionally. Sometimes you need help with your physical fitness. Sometimes you need help with even things like alignment of your spine, or you need help with what's going on nutritionally. Like there's all these experts in the Menowave practitioner group that do things that I don't do, because I mean, there's only so many hours in a day. I can't do all of it, right? And this is where I think it's fantastic. This is why I'm also excited about the Menopalooza as well, because I'm one of the speakers there, and I can't wait to share this with all the women. And I can't wait to hear what the other speakers are talking about, because these are other like skilled practitioners that have something to offer that I don't have, that might be the missing piece of the puzzle of a trigger for a woman, right? So it's just like looking at everything as a whole as well. And that's why I'm so appreciative of everything that Glen and Tina put together with Menowave and this practitioner group, because it's really second to none.
Yes, that is so true. Gwen and Tina have definitely done an amazing job at bringing this whole group together. We want to meet you, and we just want you to share and make friends.
Please, let me say one thing, to add on to that. So I want to talk to the guys watching this. All right. So guys, you typically, you want to fix things. You can't fix what's going on with your significant other, yet there's people who can. So if you want to fix something, click on that link and send your wife to Sedona. Yes. And let her get the information that she needs. And even like Robin, what you said, what you and Marty do, that's potentially one of the biggest things. I've studied this for years. The subconscious mind is really directing everything in our life. And when women have this deep subconscious belief of what they should suffer with, they tend to live into that. So doing the mindset work and hypnosis, like you're tapping into the most powerful aspect of what's going on in the body, which is the subconscious mind. And can't say enough for that. And guys, click that link and get your wife to Sedona. You'll be glad that you did.
And that leads us to the fun Marble of the Day contest for those who have signed up to go to the Menopalooza. You get 6 opportunities to enter and win a $250 gift certificate to the spa at the Wild Resort and Spa. And so today's Marble of the Day for this episode is confidence. Confidence. There is a link in the show notes or in the description of this podcast for the Menowave Retreats marbles. Click on that and you will enter in the word confidence, and that is an entry into the drawing to win the contest. Now, if you missed last week's, that was our first one. Actually, there's 2 of them now. So you want to go back 2 more episodes previous and listen for those words, and keep listening to each episode of the Menowave Lounge to get your marble a day to find out that word and click and enter in. We're going to do the drawing ahead of time that you can prepare and book your session, but you have to sign up for the retreat to be eligible to win the contest. So once again, the marble of the day is confidence. Glen, how can women get in touch with you, learn more about you? Can they get your book on Amazon?
Well, I mean, heck, all you have to do is just Google my name. You'll find more than enough about me. And I could even offer as a gift a PDF version of my book, if there's somewhere that you can put that link.
Yeah, I can put it in the show notes.
Yeah, I'll give that, because it's just because I just want women to feel better. And granted, working on your fundamentals when you have deep hormonal imbalances doesn't fix what's going on, but it starts to build a foundation of you being able to fix it. So at least it gets you going in the right direction. There's even an assessment in there. Do a little self-assessment of where you're at from a hormonal perspective. So it's really an insightful book for women, and it provides that beginning first step. And yes, you could always go to Depke Wellness. You can just Google that. I'm easy to find.
Good. Well, wonderful. I think that book will be so helpful. I'm so excited, and thank you for sharing that with us and with the women in the group. I'd be happy to put that up. I know I'm going to download it for myself.
Well, thank you so much, Glen, for being with us and just sharing such a wealth of knowledge. I mean, this is just amazing information, and especially for our men partners out there. That I'm just so glad that you're here and we're able to share all that wealth of wisdom and communication. And yes, send your women to the retreat, because they're going to hear amazing information, make new friends, and come back and be revitalized. I mean, this is just amazing stuff. So I just want to say thank you, Dr. Glen, for being here. And thank you, Marty. You're awesome. And to everybody that's out there watching, thank you for being on the Menowave Lounge, hot flashes and cool conversations.
Thank you for joining us in the Menowave Lounge. If you'd like to connect with Marty, Robin, our guests, or any of our expert Menowave care providers for personalized advice and support, head on over to our website at menowave.org and fill out an assessment that will match you with a provider who knows just how to help. Remember, you don't have to face menopause alone. Our team is here to provide the guidance and care you deserve. So, take that step towards reclaiming your well-being and connect with a Menowave care provider today. Thank you again for tuning in, and we'll catch you on the next episode of the Menowave Lounge, hot flashes and cool conversations.